We are always going in different directions, like ships that pass in the night, really. We whiz past each other. In fact, we have got a bit of a catch-up this afternoon.
On the day of their coronation, King Charles and Queen Camilla followed tradition to the letter, until a short delay broke the rhythm. A private conversation inside the coach, caught on video and picked apart by lip readers, became one of the day's most talked about moments. What did Charles really say during that pause? Why did it matter? And how did a few unfiltered seconds shift the tone of a perfectly scripted royal event? It was a historic day that had not been seen in the UK for more than 70 years. All eyes were on Westminster Abbey on the morning of May 6, 2023, when King Charles III and Queen Camilla were crowned in a spectacular royal ceremony. With thousands of people lined the streets and military units on either side, the royal couple was transported through central London on the Diamond Jubilee State Coach, a testament to both modern craftsmanship and heritage. 2,000 people had gathered inside the monastery to await the solemn occasion, including Commonwealth officials, religious leaders, international dignitaries, and relatives from both of their prior marriages. In keeping with centuries-old custom, the service included hymns, a sermon, a royal oath, and the revered anointing moment. Camilla got Queen Mary's crown, minus the contentious Koh-i-Noor diamond, while Charles was given the coronation regalia and crowned with the St. Edward's crown. A procession, a fly past, and a nationwide day of volunteering were all part of the weekend's festivities, which included a ceremony that lasted just over 2 hours and was exquisite and symbolic. In light of the significance of the event, Buckingham Palace issued a formal statement later that day. Although the day appeared to be a perfect success on the surface, Their Majesties were deeply touched by the events of yesterday and profoundly grateful both to all those who helped to make it such a glorious occasion and to the very many who turned out to show their support in such numbers in London and further afield. Not everything, though, had gone quite as planned. The Bishop of Chelmsford, Dr. Guli Francis Dakani, who actively participated in the service, subtly observed in a post-event assessment, "There were one or two things that didn't go strictly to plan. I don't want to embarrass someone specifically." She didn't name anyone, but this seemingly insignificant remark immediately generated rumors. Timelines, video, and eyewitness reports were immediately used by the media to determine what might have gone wrong. One element quickly surfaced: the Prince and Princess of Wales's delayed arrival. The successors to the throne and their families are supposed to arrive at the location ahead of the sovereign, per royal protocol. This time, however, King Charles and Queen Camilla arrived at Westminster Abbey before Prince William, Princess Catherine, and their 3 children, Prince George, Princess Charlotte, and Prince Louis. Their tardy arrival caused an unanticipated halt in the procession's progress. This change resulted in the royal couple having to wait inside the Diamond Jubilee State Coach for about 8 minutes before leaving, as the king's arrival was meticulously planned. From the outside, cameras recorded Charles and Camilla sitting in the coach. Not only was the delay noteworthy, but so was the king's attitude. He was seen on camera talking animatedly and pointing to Camilla. Although the facial gestures were slight, the tone was clearly agitated. Even small hesitations might draw attention in a scene that has been so meticulously planned. This spontaneous halt gave viewers who were watching live or watching the video again online a unique look behind the royal curtain. Professional lip readers were asked to decipher the exact words spoken inside the coach, while the internet swiftly analyzed the images. Jackie Press, a seasoned lip reader with decades of experience covering royal events, provided the first widely shared interpretation. King Charles reportedly said, "I'm worried about time. I mean, it's been longer this time and, well, look," according to a press report cited by the Daily Mail. "I understand." She said the remark showed sincere apprehension about the timing, which could have been caused by delays in the procession's itinerary. Another lip reader who appeared on Sky News Australia offered an alternative interpretation. Charles was quoted as remarking, "We can never be on time," in their study, which presented a somewhat more honest image. Yes, this is a drawback. Even though the words were different, the emotional tone of both interpretations was the same. There's always something. This is boring. Charles seemed frustrated, trapped in the tense moment of royal timing gone wrong. These readings are not official transcripts, so please take note. Despite being a highly skilled ability, lip reading can change based on a number of factors, including illumination, camera angle, facial coverage, and even speech pace. Neither lip reader asserted complete certainty, and no comment from Buckingham Palace ever confirmed or refuted any of the interpretation. However, this coach moment rapidly became popular in online commentary and news cycles. The video sparked discussion. Some felt sorry for Charles, claiming that a king overseeing such a momentous event needed to be on time. Others saw it as an indication of personal annoyance seeping into a public gathering that was supposed to be composed and cohesive. In any event, it was a memorable moment that humanized the event rather than interfering with it. Furthermore, King Charles's casual remarks and body language have previously attracted notice. Another episode that had occurred only 8 months prior, in the early days of his rule after Queen Elizabeth II's death, swiftly returned to the public's recollection. Charles was captured on camera getting noticeably agitated while signing a guest book during a trip to Northern Ireland. He cried out, "Oh God, I hate this," when the pen he was using started to spill. The video quickly went viral after being shown in publications like The Guardian, and it came to represent the severe scrutiny Charles endured during his rise from prince to king. "I can't bear this bloody thing. Every stinking time." These fleeting, spontaneous moments highlight the importance of royal responsibilities, particularly when every action and statement is amplified in public. Similar to the pen incident, the coach conversation revealed the strain that underlies ceremonial perfection rather than scandal or failure. These human expressions demonstrated that no event, no matter how carefully prepared, is impervious to unpredictability, even though the coronation appeared to go off without a hitch to outside spectators. Most spectators were unaware that the small delay had created such a noticeable commotion within the royal carriage until the coach eventually started moving again and the ceremony inside Westminster Abbey began. However, that brief time was enough to start a whole discussion among those who were paying close attention, especially the body language specialists and professional lip readers who frequently follow royal events. It was about what was revealed, not just what had been spoken. Royal coverage has long relied on lip readers. Since there are no microphones in the royal carriages or during some private conversations, the media has historically relied on professionals like Jackie Press, who has years of experience interpreting high-profile events. The first generally disseminated analysis of the coach exchange was hers. She noticed that Charles seemed to remark, "I'm concerned about time, because it's been longer this time and, well, look, I understand." For many, the tone conveyed a tense concern about the ceremony's progress, particularly with the world's eyes on it. An alternative interpretation of what the king might have said emerged shortly after that one was reported. According to this one, which was provided by a different lip reader through Sky News Australia, Charles said, "We can never be on time. Yes, this is a drawback. There's always something. This is boring." This interpretation suggested more frustration than anxiety, possibly with a pattern of delays or problems at royal engagements, as well as with the current situation. Despite their differences, the two interpretations shared the same emotional theme. The king was obviously uncomfortable. It is important to realize that lip reading is not perfect, even if it is a skill that has been honed over years of practice. Expert lip readers make their readings based on the speaker's facial expressions, contextual cues, and obvious mouth movements. However, the accuracy of what may be reliably interpreted depends on a number of factors, including camera angles, illumination, and the quality of the footage. There is potential for interpretational variation because Charles and Camilla in the coach were partially framed, and their mouths were not always visible. Furthermore, Buckingham Palace has never offered an opinion on how accurate these readings are. Similar to other royal family lip-reading incidents, the public is usually left to make its own judgments while the palace remains silent, with media outlets publishing headlines based on the most dramatic or persuasive interpretations. In the cycle of royal coverage, where public interest frequently outpaces the availability of official information, this is not unusual. However, because they are spontaneous, these moments have resonance. The silent conversations captured on camera had emotional weight in contrast to the formal ceremonies of the coronation, where every hymn, gesture, and symbolic deed was meticulously planned and completed. They give the general public a peek of the individual who holds the post. This fleeting period of seeming annoyance or anxiety resonated with Charles because it seemed genuine. The coach incident was especially intriguing because it was part of a larger trend. Charles has previously been observed displaying emotional outbursts in public during a formal engagement. The pen incident in Northern Ireland had made a lasting effect less than a year before. Charles seemed clearly agitated by a leaking pen on September 13, while he was signing a guest book at Hillsborough Castle. His words, "Oh God, I hate this," were heard. The incident, which was caught on camera and shared by The Guardian, went viral. "I can't bear this bloody thing. Every stinking time." It was a reaction that many could relate to. Others, however, interpreted it as a sign of a short fuse or a difficulty keeping one's cool under pressure. Nor was this an exceptional instance. A few weeks later, cameras caught Charles looking clearly impatient during a public appearance in Wales. Charles could be heard complaining that Camilla was taking too long as she greeted the audience. Although the video didn't make as many headlines as the pen outburst, it did support the developing theory that the new monarch was still getting used to the demands of his high position after decades of training. Furthermore, those pressures are significant. As king, Charles must follow centuries of royal customs, live up to Commonwealth standards, and remain composed in all public situations. The function of the king is based on continuous visibility, in contrast to politicians or celebrities who may temporarily withdraw from public scrutiny. With numerous cameras recording from various perspectives and social media analyzing every second, a fleeting spontaneous expression can swiftly become a viral headline. Even though the coronation carriage moment caused little actual disturbance, it became significant because it demonstrated that Charles was still a human being who was prone to annoyance, strain, and time-related stress on the most significant day of his reign. A more profound change in the way the monarchy is viewed is also reflected in the interest with these occasions. Royal occasions were covered with a degree of reverence and restraint in previous decades. Authenticity is highly valued by the people today. Not only are unscripted moments uncommon, but they also feel genuine, which is why people are drawn to them. Many people might identify with the image of an irritated King Charles sitting in his coach and making a quick remark to his wife. It mirrored the typical situations that arise at formal gatherings, weddings, or even school assemblies, where even small setbacks and delays try one's patience. That moment on the bus exposed the tension that lurks beneath the surface, even if the crown ceremony itself went off with remarkable accuracy. Furthermore, when considered in conjunction with Charles's previous responses, the pen accident and the walkabout remark, it revealed a man acclimating not only to a new title, but also to the significant emotional demands that accompany it. One thing became evident as the video kept making the rounds, and people analyzed every interpretation that could be made of it. It wasn't just about what Charles said, it was also about what those words meant. From Queen Elizabeth II's almost flawless poise to her son's more obvious weakness, they represented the growing pains of a monarchy in transition. Thus, Charles and Camilla proceeded into their rule after the coronation. However, the effects of that short delay, the interpretations from the lip readers, and the talk in the carriage persisted long after the ceremony was over. They were included into the larger story, which was not about a bad thing that happened, but rather about a genuine, flawed, human moment that was caught in the middle of royal protocol. Even though the chat inside the carriage garnered international notice, there were other moments over the coronation weekend that sparked discussion. As more footage emerged, especially from the balcony appearance at Buckingham Palace, the public's attention started to broaden. The newly crowned monarch and senior royals meet the populace at this customary event, which is typically remembered for its symbolic meaning. This time, however, it was also memorable for what some saw as yet another open discussion between Queen Camilla and King Charles. Senior working royals, including the Prince and Princess of Wales and their children, joined the King and Queen as they entered the balcony after the coronation parade. Cameras zoomed in to get every expression as cheers erupted from the throng below. One particular clip stood out among the footage that was posted on social media and aired on television networks. It shows Camilla responding in what seemed to be a cheerful manner after King Charles turned slightly to talk to her. Lip readers intervened once more to analyze the situation. Charles reportedly stated, "I can't see a thing with this crown," according to Jeremy Freeman, a professional lip reader who was cited by The Sun. "I am unable to look up." Camilla allegedly replied, "I am also unable to see anything. My crown will fall off." This exchange went viral, and viewers found it funny that such a formal appearance would cause such a relatable discomfort. This time, the interpretation spoke to the physical reality of donning bulky, historically significant attire over the course of a lengthy, meticulously planned day rather than irritation. In addition to being ceremonial, Charles and Camilla's crowns were historical artifacts with symbolic meaning. Dating back to the 17th century, St. Edward's crown, which was used to crown King Charles, weighs almost 5 pounds. It is embellished with more than 400 beautiful stones and is composed of solid gold. The crown is usually only worn on the monarch's head once during their reign because of its weight and rigidity, which need careful handling. After wearing it for a brief moment during the service, Charles didn't wear it again that day. A modified version of Queen Mary's crown, which was first made in 1913, was worn by Queen Camilla. For the first time in modern history, a queen consort did not commission a new crown, but instead repurposed an old one. In Camilla's version, the contentious Koh-i-Noor diamond was removed, and the weight was significantly reduced. Nevertheless, the crown continued to be a large and elaborate item, and Camilla was observed handling it carefully when she made appearances. Despite their striking appearance, these regal ornaments are uncomfortable. Queen Elizabeth II once talked openly about the difficulties of holding the throne, using her own words. She made the humorous statement, "You can't look down to read the speech. If you did, your neck would break," in a documentary broadcast by the British Broadcasting Corporation in 2018. This highlighted the physical strain required to maintain royal pageantry, something that most viewers rarely think about. It makes sense in this environment to speculate that Charles and Camilla may have spoken briefly about their crowns. It can be emotionally and physically exhausting to stand in front of large crowds, wear bulky regalia, and maintain formal calm. If Freeman's reading is correct, then the king and queen formed a silent understanding during this brief exchange, reflecting the weight of the day both literally and symbolically. In contrast to the coach incident, there was no controversy surrounding the balcony moment. Indeed, it appeared to reaffirm that the royals are still humans in spite of centuries of custom. They are uneasy. They engage in small chat. Additionally, Charles and Camilla sometimes exchange glances that convey more information than protocol ever could. However, not everyone paid attention to these tender times. In order to make connections between that exchange and a perceived trend in Charles's behavior, several critics went back to the previous tension in the coach. Clips from earlier royal encounters in which the king had displayed signs of annoyance or impatience were revived in articles. Even though these instances were somewhat small, their frequency indicated a king who was not hesitant to display emotion in highly regulated environments. Depending on your point of view, this was either a breach of decorum or refreshing transparency. However, many failed to notice how well the remainder of the coronation went. The service itself continued without interruption, even though there was a little wait and some quiet chats that made headlines. The ceremony was precisely delivered by the Archbishop of Canterbury. After taking the coronation oath, Charles was given the anointing oil made using the same recipe that had been used for his mother in 1953. In a separate ceremony, Camilla was anointed and crowned, becoming queen in a way not seen for a queen consort in almost a century. In keeping with Charles's long-held goal of a more inclusive monarchy, there was also the unprecedented participation of leaders from a variety of religious backgrounds, including Jewish, Muslim, Hindu, Sikh, and Buddhist leaders. Despite being ceremonial, his choice to include them was a significant shift from previous coronations, which followed a strictly Christian structure. Although there was some controversy over the decision, it was generally accepted as a component of Charles's larger attempt to update the monarchy's image without completely departing from tradition. The public's participation in the ceremony also changed. Viewers were asked to join in by reciting a brand new homage of the people, an oath of allegiance to the king, for the first time in British history. Others thought the gesture was out of step with contemporary attitudes, while others applauded it as democratic. The public's conflicted response to the day was further exacerbated by the mixed response, which did not interfere with the ceremony itself. Charles remained calm through it all. He stood upright during the anointing, nodded solemnly to accept the crown, and spoke clearly despite the preceding tension and sporadic signs of exhaustion. Like other queen consorts, Camilla handled her new role with grace, participating more actively, and seeming comfortable in public settings. When considered collectively, the coronation provided a glimpse of a monarchy in flux, grounded in tradition, but adapting to modern times. The day was not defined by the unscripted moments, even those that were analyzed by body language analyzers and lip readers. However, they added color, giving texture of what might have been an unbreakable formality show. They served as a reminder to the world that even monarchs worry about the passing of time, that even queens reposition their crowns, and that even when tradition is burdensome, people nonetheless feel its effects. The crown's reputation was unaffected by these behind-the-scenes looks. If anything, they made it more relatable to the people it represents, more human, and more entertaining. The public's perception had changed by the end of the coronation weekend. What started out as a celebration of tradition and continuity had developed into a multi-layered discussion about openness, expectations, and the reality of contemporary monarchy rather than mistakes or failures. Many found the unguarded expressions between them to be more stunning than the practiced ceremonies inside Westminster Abbey. A rare moment of emotion amid a ceremony-dominated event was provided by the brief coach delay, the lip-read interpretations, and the balcony conversation. While some criticized King Charles's response to the delay for its appearance, others saw it as a sign of his meticulousness and the strain to live up to expectations in a reign that was only getting started. This monarch was cognizant of the consequences of his schedule and was not divorced from it. Every minute matters in the age of round-the-clock media coverage and international live streams. Every pause is observed. Analyses are made on every face expression. Nevertheless, the day's importance was never overshadowed. The crowning of a new king has occurred in the United Kingdom for the first time in more than 7 decades. The last time a spectacle like this occurred was during the coronation of Queen Elizabeth II in 1953. Despite being historic, her coronation took place in a different media environment, devoid of digital replays, social media, or body language analysis that went viral. Charles' coronation, on the other hand, was filmed, examined, and replayed in real time under a worldwide microscope. Charles is accustomed to that scrutiny. As Prince of Wales, Charles was frequently in the spotlight, with criticism of his public remarks and extensive coverage of his private life. However, assuming the throne added a new level of urgency. His rule is a symbol of difference and continuity. Charles has frequently been more expressive than his mother, who was quiet and reticent. Sometimes he showed her feelings, which were uncommon in public. And if some regard this as a break from tradition, others see it as a response by the monarchy to a contemporary society where formality is less important than sincerity. Therefore, the coronation weekend was more than just ceremonies and crowns. It dealt with the communication style of the monarchy in the modern era. The people got involved in the event rather than just watching it happen. Real-time reactions were made possible by social media networks. Everything from ceremonial dress to facial expressions was evaluated by analysts. Comparative videos of royal actions over eras were shared by media sources. This wider interaction included more than simply the lip-reading analysis. Such interpretations might have been restricted to post-event comments or gossip columns in earlier generations. They are now included in the live coverage of the event. Additionally, lip readers like Jeremy Freeman and Jackie Press made news with their interpretations, but they also brought attention to how the media is changing how the public perceives things. Audiences no longer watch passively. Instead, They participate in the creation of royal narratives by assembling sound, silence, and video snippets. Nevertheless, the larger background should not be overlooked in the midst of all the examination. The coronation was a well-thought-out and accomplished state ceremony. In addition to embracing new features, multi-faith involvement, a wider public invitation, and a more inclusive vision of British identity, it also included centuries of tradition. It was a declaration of both continuity and subdued development. Additionally, a minor change in tone was indicated by the monarchy's readiness to permit vulnerable moments, even if they were unplanned. The lip-reading conversations were not answered by the royal family. Regarding the conversation on the balcony and what was stated in the coach, no statements were made. According to royal protocol, this quiet was appropriate. Speculation is rarely addressed by the monarchy, especially when it comes to private events captured on video. However, by not responding, they let the discussion flow naturally, influenced by interpretation rather than intervention. And maybe it was right. That day's events were self-evident. They were defined by intricacy rather than controversy. Thus, they didn't need to be clarified. A more complete picture of the individuals behind the crowns was painted by the king's facial expressions, the queen's reactions, the small hiccups, and the seamless recoveries. They reminded the people that even monarchs, dressed in their finest regalia, can feel the weight of time, pressure, and expectation, and that even the most well-prepared events have aspects of spontaneity. The footage persisted when headlines stopped covering the coronation and the royal family resumed their regular schedule of engagements and responsibilities. Not because they were theatrical, but because they were genuine. The coach moment, the lip-read quotations, and the remarks regarding crowns remained in the public eye. These were human events woven into the fabric of regal custom. The coronation served as both a beginning and a conclusion for King Charles III and Queen Camilla. Following one of the most admired kings in contemporary history was an enormous challenge, but it also signaled the official beginning of a long-awaited reign. However, it also presented a chance to create a new royal persona based on respectability and relatability. In this way, even the unsaid parts of the message were incorporated. Despite the centuries-old meaning of the crown, the guy wearing it is living in the here and now. He is observed, captured, deciphered, and evaluated. Nevertheless, he keeps going knowing that each step, each pause, and each word, spoken or unspoken, contributes to a legacy that is continuously being created. The video for today has now come to an end. Make sure to see the other videos on the channel if you've followed us this far.